Welcome guys back. I have a new intro and everything. Well, I just watched Moba Diviner. It was a very sad movie. It's an Australian movie, so I don't know if you guys in America or wherever you are would have seen it or heard of it. It's a pretty sad movie. Today we're going to be doing something different. And today we're actually going to be building some systems, because what we need is we've built a scoreboard. Now we also need an inventory system. We need to have a stats tracker, and we need to do a bunch of little other UI things, like health bars and stuff like that. We're going to start very simply at the that's not a simple thing, but we're going to start at the inventory system. Now we're going to create a new folder. I'm just going to call this inventory system. The rest of these are just like kind of random stuff, so that's why I mostly don't have too much here. I can't drink then, yeah. I was just double checking. So this is gonna be done from scratch. I've built one before, but I thought, hey, I can build one now, so we'll do it. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do something slightly different. I just had this idea just now. I was like, hey, this could work, so I'll try it. Why not? What's the worst that could happen? If this doesn't work, I'll go figure another way to do it. But I was like, I like trying new things. Oh. So we're gonna call this our inventory manager. So it's gonna manage our inventory. Then we're gonna have one called our output, or like an actual inventory GUI. So we're gonna call inventory GUI manager. Even though we're gonna use a UI system. I don't know why I decided to open that, but okay. Even though we are going to be using the UI system in Unity, I thought, hey, we could still have a script to load all that stuff in there, and that way it's a bit more separate, and that one can be a bit more private. Now the third one we need is going to be a few scripts actually. We need something called an item. It's going to be a C# script just called item. And this is going to be one of the first ones we're going to set up. We will load it, push it to the end. We're going to check out mono develop, and we're going to make sure it's serializable so we can actually see it. Like that. Now we don't need any of these. And that's basically it. And then under our inventory manager, we're going to do what we I normally like to do, which is remove all these. And then we'll add all our usings and stuff like that. So what we'll do is we'll add under here using Unity engine.ui, because we'll be using your UI. And then under here we'll be using .generic. Well then, now we're going to start. So item, what do we want our item to store? And we want to save this. We want our item to store a few variables. Obviously, we want to store something like, actually no, we want a bit more than this. We want to have an item database. We'll go from here. So we want to store the sprite for the image, or the item, right? So we can actually have a sprite for it, because it's no use just having that, right? So we'll create a sprite. So we'll have a sprite. And the reason why we're using a sprite, we can use text 2D actually. And we can go this, we'll make it public. Text 2D, and we'll call this maybe texture, right? And what we're going to do is now we're also going to have something called a public boolean called isActive. And we're also going to have a I'm so bad at typing. My keyboard slides like crazy. Okay. Let's move out a bit. Okay. So a public integer of ID. We're going to call this, yeah, just ID is fine. Then we want a, we're just going to do this, item ID. this is active and item texture. That way it's just a bit easier for me to do things. So now we have an ID. We're going to be loading things like a public string of something called, maybe, let's say under our public string we actually want it to do something. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a public string of our like a description, right? So item description, and then we're also going to have a public string for item name. Now there's actually two ways we can do this. What we can do is we can have these be linked to item ID, so we have another database where we store all the item ID, or the all the item descriptions, all the textures, all the actives, all that stuff, and the item itself will just have booleans and stuff that it needs right now. For example, cooldown timer. For example, things like is finished cooldown, things like have been recently used, for example, if we have a unique passive ID, so items can't stack like they can't in most games, then you would have a static saying is unique and stuff like that. And I think I'm going to do that because it allows for a slightly different system. So we'll have a list of items, and that whenever we want to say, okay, what's your description, we can just reference to the item database, which will have a list of everything. And it means there's a lot more coded in. So it's a slightly different way to do it. So what we are actually going to destroy both of these, and we're going to just have the item ID is active. We're actually not going to do this. We're actually going to have a public float for timer, or cooldown timer. Alright, if this is 0, then we actually do need to have a public. We can just make it like -1, and then we can check if the cooldown time is -1, then you don't give it the little border and whatever you want to do with it to make it active. There's no need to have it now. Is active. Item texture, we're actually going to pass it its item texture, despite having it under a database, because each item may have a slightly different texture. For example, if we want an item to, let's say, evolve and change into a different item, then instead of having to change the item ID, and then maybe having to write a script just for that one, just to change the texture. I mean, yeah, you could do one here, and it would be a bit different. And now for reskinning a lot easier. You could reskin a lot. It's not too bad to reskin. You would still have to pass it its texture, but it could store its own texture and do its own texture stuff without having to reference something else. That should work. So we got a cooldown timer, we got an item ID, and they're just the ones that we need right now. So we can have a public item like this, and we want a few things like an integer for ID. We want a float for timer. We want texture 2D for texture. And then we're just going to say, okay, cooldown timer is equal to timer. Item ID is equal to ID. And item texture is equal to texture. Like that. Very simple, very easy, and not much to it. The reason it's a bit slower and stuff like that is just because I'm trying to think about what I want to do. Since this is from scratch, I haven't really done something like this. This is actually the first time I've approached it this way. So now we need a few more scripts, obviously. We need quite a few actually, but we'll just do it from here. Okay, now C#, we'll call this item database. With these arrows down here, it's just oh, line endings. We can just line ending them all like that. That should fix all of them but one. Oh, guys, I'll fix them later. So we are going to clear out all of these like usual. Good. And so item database is not going to have data right now, but so inventory manager. We want to have a few things. We want to have a public. How do I want to do this? How about we try it this way? We have a public dictionary, and then we have a string as a key. Well, how about we have an ID, because we're not passing it a name. And then we have an a integer as that, and then the value is going to be item. Equal to a new dictionary. Oh, we have to go give a name. You can call this item or inventory, I guess. So a new dictionary of that. So a dictionary, the big thing about a dictionary is that you can look up things. So for example, with my array, let's say my list, I can say give me list with the index of 0, and it'll give me the first entry. For a dictionary, what I would do is I would go give me item of array integer, but you can also sort them by string. So this may seem no different to a list, but the big thing about this is that we can link this to a list. So we can have a string here. So that means that you could have an item name link into item name. Well, we've got integer because we want ID, but I may want a string, and that way that you could type. It's say we're going to go, okay, well we're typing. We go, okay, can I look for loafer's sword? Loafer. Oh, there it is, and it pops up. You know, as you type, because you know it's can look for a dictionary that has a substring or has those letters in it, in that particular order. So I'm going to go write a string here. Because it shouldn't matter. Because even though it'll be item 0, it will still have a name. And we can still just link them up by names. It will make it a little bit more tiresome to make items. But, hey, not too much more work. So now we actually want to do something with this inventory manager. Sure, you have a dictionary or similar list kind of thing, but let's actually do something. We actually want to give the GUI manager some data to display, but we also want to track what happens with it, and that's really what the inventory manager can do. What items are selected, what items aren't, you know, stuff like that. So there's a few things. We're gonna have a public. Actually, no, we don't want to do that there. I'm just thinking what I want to do. I mean, there's not much else to it. We're just displaying things. Let's try and think. What do we want to do? Because it's not like we're building the inventory. We already have an inventory. Now, if we want to move X to Y, now that just requires lifting and stuff. Let's build it first, then maybe I can imagine a bit easier. So we'll build a UI. Panel. The panel's gonna be this big. At the bottom of the screen, maybe like this big. There we go. So what do we want to do with this panel? There's a few things. One, we want to make it pure. By that I mean like we raise alpha. Next we want to make it maybe like a white is just fine. Now we actually want to design something. So we want to design out of a panel. We also want to have another panel. And this panel can just be for this area. So this panel is just for your character data. Let's say maybe like this much. And then we also have another panel for your actual data. Like this. So we can call this character sheet. Call this character inventory. And we can call this main like character panel. So character inventory is going to be saying it's a bit different. We're going to have a bunch of little squares in it. So we'll build those. There's going to be little images. And that's what I want to do. Do you think about something else? It should be brought down. Oh, why does it want so high? That's fine though. So we instead of having inventory, what we're actually gonna do is we're actually gonna have tiny little panels like this. And then we can adjust you accordingly. And that can be an inventory one, maybe a bit bigger. How we got 26.5, so let's halve this. -30. That's not half, apparently. And we just duplicate it, and then what we can do is we can move this down here, and then we can do something like this, 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 and that's about the same size. Now we can just kind of delete this, do this, bring this down, or then we can obviously make a bunch of these. So how many inventories do we want? Well, this one seems to just support 6, we'll just do 6 right now, but we can always add more later. And we'll bring these down, just so we can actually see them properly. Like this. Beautiful. That's what our inventory little things will be. So these will be inventory panels. We're going to give them names, because these are very important that we name them in a way. Because how we name them will determine how we order what's in them. I think I've probably added one too many scripts I need. I probably can just put all this under GUI manager. I'm probably just going to do that now, but under this one. So what we're going to do is we want to have an array of those objects. We want to have an array of panels. Public panel. Get images, but we cannot have panels. Why? Okay, well we'll have public images then, I guess. Oh, we can have transforms. And we can call these our panels, so our item panels. And that's equal to a new array of 6. And then we're going to load that data in, but we want to see how big the panel is, how many panels are. So now let's actually do something more than this. We actually want to have a few other things. We also want to have, because we're going to be getting the components of the we want to have the panels, and those panels each will have their own item script inside them. By that I mean each of these will have its own image. Oh, they've already got an image, but we want an image inside an image, don't we? Like this. Like 30 by 30. Maybe 40 by 40. 50. Just like this. And now we want a few things. We want to have something called an item component on this, but it's going to be a different component than this. And our image is going to have a sprite of none. I'm just trying to think. We can just turn it off if it's got sprite of none. Yeah. And we'll just turn it off if it's nothing. So we'll have this little script in here in a second. Zero, one. That's like so ordered badly. Freak. This should be 2. This should be 1. This should be 4. Or 3. I hate when I order them all. Just quickly get these things right before we do anything. This is can be 4. This can be 5. This can be 2. There we go. Now we can actually get images properly, and images which can be over here. Alright, and then we got the image over here which can be pushed over here. Image which can be pushed down here. Finally, this one, which can be. Let's do one more after this. Little, okay. And this one, which can come over here. And down again. Now let's write the script. We can call this item data. Item data is going to be a bit different. It's just going to store things like a public item of current item. It's going to store public, and then we can this is where it gets a bit difficult, because this is where you have to do a bunch of stuff, but we'll just have an update right now. We say if get components in children, Right. Dot. Oh, sorry, image. If the image equals null, then we even need to say private. We're just going to say image. I'm just going to say image. We're going to say sprite holder. Say C2. If sprite holder dot image or the sprite is equal to null, then sprite holder dot game object is dot selective host. Like that, and then we should be able to format it, and then it shouldn't have any problems. I'm data. Oh yeah, because it can't. So we'll just make this public so we can actually see it. These aren't setting active. Oh, I said in children. Hello. You are stupid. This is not your child. You want this to be your child. How am I supposed to do it this way? Guess we can turn ourselves off, I guess. That's kind of cool. Yes, I turned itself off. Good. So we want these all to have icon data. Let's put this back into a proper system. And this should be filled up with nothing. Oh, because they all have different things. So I mean, we are caching whether you want a copy of our own object, but that's pretty interesting. But yeah, so we're going to put a public item in there, and then depending on the item, it will tell the image what its sprite is. So that's how we're going to do it, and it's actually changed a lot. So let's call it basic inventory. That's going to be the end of this video. So it's kind of a longer one. I've already got an idea. I can jump straight into the next one and do it, even though half my code I kind of set up weirdly I'm going to change. Kind of funnily. But, you know, I'm just trying to figure out a way that works best for me. Well, see you guys next time.